if you find yourself like going, oh my God, this is going to suck. Everything is all or nothing. I'm catastrophizing. I'm overgeneralizing. I feel super stressed. Everything that I look at goes into some poor self-esteem and all I can do is complain. Well, we are going to talk about cognitive restructuring and reframing those thoughts. Why that can actually change your entire life starting right now.
Check it out.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori, and I'm so excited to be here with you today, and I cannot wait to talk to you about this topic, and it's funny how this topic came about. I do believe I had it on the list to do like later in the year, but I was just talking to this beautiful, beautiful client who resides in Utah, and we just had a session, and we were working on mental reframing, just in general, like, what they're going through and why we're talking in the first place. It's always kind of that negative or that what if thinking. And so I've given them some pretty good tools. Of course, they have to implement them, of course, but to start doing that restructuring. And I want to talk to you, scientifically proven, it's neuroplasticity. This is right up my alleyway as a person who studies human behavior and why the brain does what it does. And the reason I got into it at all was because I was such a chronic negative thinker, and I needed to know, like, why does my brain do what it does when I have anxiety or when I'm feeling negative? Like, I really wanted to know what makes my brain tick. In turn, I started noticing it in other people, and I was like, oh my God, like, I need to share this knowledge. And it's something that I continue to learn because the brain itself and what we know about the brain is so minuscule, a lot that trust me, this can really change your life. But again, this is going to come with patience. This is not overnight. You don't just reframe your thoughts and automatically everything's positive. It's not how that's going to work. But I promise you that this is possible. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about the brain before I get into all of this. The brain is such an interesting thing. Highly, highly intelligent and highly not at the same time. And what I mean by that is your brain doesn't know the difference, right? Your thoughts do not know the difference on, am I being chased by lions? Like, are they coming to maul me, right? Fight or flight. Or am I having an irrational thought? Fight or flight. Your brain goes, oh my God, we're in danger. So it's super intelligent, but it also goes into fight or flight. Now, that same brain, if everything for you is everything, never, always, nobody, everybody, we go into overgeneralization. Oh my God, what if this happens? And we go catastrophic, right? Your brain starts to automatically, without thought, there's no thought to it. It's not like you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to think negative today. Nope. It is a natural process. And those are called automatic thoughts. So I want you to think of a cornfield for a minute. Even if you don't have cornfields where you are, you've seen them. And think about a corn maze, okay? So they have to make the corn maze somehow, right? So you got to knock down the corn. So it starts to make that path. Well, you better keep walking on that path because that's going to help like really solidify it. You're like, wow, this is like a really good path right now. And you can do the same thing in your brain, and that is called neuroplasticity. So think of it as plastic, like think of just bendable plastic. I mean, it's way more detailed than that, but the neural pathways can be changed. So this is why I don't buy into, and nobody who does anything in mental health is going to buy into, well, this is just how I am. This is how I'm wired. The moment that you say, this is how I'm wired, I was born this way. You were not born a negative thinker. No, you were not. No, you were not. Now, in childhood, right? Childhood trauma, bullying, various things can come into play that starts to create that automatic path. That neuro pathway starts to go, oh my God, like here we go, right? So as your experiences unfold, your brain goes into this automatic transition. But where you can change it is going to be a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a lot of work. Probably for the rest of your life, but it gets better as time goes on. It does get easier, doesn't necessarily go away. And I think that's the biggest thing for people. But you can literally rewire your brain. It has been proven how much more gray matter you have once you start doing this, right? So that's where the cognitive restructuring is going to come into play. It's a technique that has literally saved my life, has saved my client's life, and I learn more and more about it. And psychiatrists, psychologists, anybody, professors, anybody who studies any part of the brain starts to see the cognitive restructure. You can even see on a brain scan, like if somebody, like if they're doing a brain analysis, and let's say they're monitoring for a while, you can see from the negative when they start to even just practice gratitude, there's a shift, right? Because that's how your brain works. See, it's a technique. It's not something that you just go, I'm going to think positive today. Everything's going to be fabulous. We're not doing all or nothing thinking. We're not being overgeneralization or generalized. We're not going to go down that pathway of like, oh my God, everything's going to be amazing. Don't do that because you're not going to believe it anyway. What you're doing is you're challenging your thoughts. You're not just settling for when your brain goes, I suck. Here's an example of that. Well, I suck at my job. Because let's say you did something, you made a mistake. Oh my God, I suck at this job. That's not true. That's not true at all. We're going to talk about that reframe. But when you do nobody loves me. Oh, I'll never have friends. And that goes into a victim mentality. Your negative, pessimistic thinking will lead you in that pathway. So in order to change it, you got to change something. And so it's a technique. And what it does is it replaces those negative thoughts and it challenges them to replace them with better balanced thoughts. And honestly, what else does this do? It brings you back to present. You know how I'm always telling you guys, stay present, stay present. You're like, I don't know how to do it. Well, if you're having a negative thought and now you're forcing yourself to challenge that thought, well, you kind of can't be anywhere else. You're sitting there and you're trying to figure it out. Right. And so, and we're going to talk about kind of like why you struggle with that. And again, we know a lot of that's going to be childhood, but again, you're not going to tell me that this is how you're wired because you can change that psychologically, research proven, doctor approved. Yes, you can. You just have to be willing to be consistent. And when you do this, this also helps with procrastination, quote unquote, motivation that's not real, but let's say inspiration, right? Because here's the thing, and think about how fascinating that is. The brain can rewire itself. Now, how does it do that? Consistent, keyword, consistent, repeated thought patterns. So you're not meant to be perfection. Okay. That's a huge distortion, huge cognitive distortion, perfection. Or you know what? I heard this podcast. Over on Patreon, side note, I usually tell you this in the beginning. On Patreon, I have this amazing worksheet that's going to help you really kind of challenge those thoughts. It's going to give you examples and then you can add your stuff in there. If that's your jam, hop over to Patreon. It's patreon.com/the positivity experience. I forgot to tell you that in the beginning, but I was thinking of that worksheet because what it does is when that thought comes, and again, if you're in traffic, okay, I'm just pulling this off my head now. If you're in traffic and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be late. Okay, well, so what? Oh my God, I'm going to be late. Well, that's a true statement. But now you go down, oh my God, the boss is going to be so upset with me. And then, oh my God, I'm going to miss that presentation. What can you do about it? Absolutely nothing. So you could restructure it and be like, well, you know what? While I'm sitting here, I'm going to call them and let them know, hey, I'm in traffic. I mean, you can't do anything about that. And if they get mad, that's a them issue. And if you miss the sort of presentation, just ask if that's something that you can submit for where you are, or if you can FaceTime or you can come on Zoom. And if you can't, you can't. But don't go down that rabbit hole of like, I'm going to lose my job because I'm in traffic. If you lose your job because you're in traffic, you don't want that job anyway. Okay. But my point is when things are largely out of your control, instead of, especially in the future, stop going, well, what if this doesn't work? Okay. What if it doesn't? Then you learn something. What if it does though? So I say this to all my clients, I'm going to share it with you, is if you're going to go all in on the negative thinking, what if, well, this negative, oh my God, cool. Go all the way down that rabbit hole. Go as far until you can catastrophize no more. Then turn around and do it the exact opposite way. Well, I mean, what if it does work out? Well, yeah, I don't believe it. I didn't ask what you believe. I asked, what if it does work out? Well, I mean, then that would be good. Well, why would it be good? Well, because then, whatever the reason is, you want to challenge your negative what if to the alternative to that. Again, let's not be dramatic and be like, oh my God, my life would be so blissful. Like, we're not going to do that game. You're just challenging and you're restructuring that thought because right now your automatic thought looks for a problem. That's why I tell you guys, never, ever, ever, ever in a million evers, go online on Google for any health thing. Stop doing that. You are not looking for anything positive. You're looking for everything negative. If you get into a relationship because you just got out of a cheating relationship, you are not looking for that relationship to succeed. You are looking for every reason for it to fail. So you can't have different until we start restructuring. And this is going to take time and like much time and much consistency, right? Procrastination comes into play here. Oh my God, well, it's just too much. Okay, well, no, let's restructure that. That's where micro goals comes into play and say, you know what, there's a lot I need to do, but I'm just going to carve out this one little corner and I'm going to accomplish that. Why? Because then I know that I will have completed something. Do you see the restructure? So you got to challenge your negative with your positives, right? Because when you start doing that, it leverages your neuroplasticity and it creates this new pattern of thinking. Like it's this neuro pathway. So now your automatic thoughts aren't quite as pessimistic. You know, you might look at something and be like, okay, well, I mean, this is great for flexibility. Okay. If you are hardcore, well, I got to understand it and it's got to be this way. And oh my God, the plans got changed, or oh my God, this date got changed, or holy hell, now I don't know what to do with this. Yeah, that's because you're trying to control things. Right. And you got to challenge that and being like, well, okay, well, so what? It changed. It might be inconvenient. It might be a little disappointing, but so what? Use that time for something else. When you change and start to alter that neuro pathway, you're not going to be nearly as emotionally unregulated. And that's proven in massive amounts of studies, proven. And here's the thing, when you practice positive thinking, like I was saying, there is an increase in gray matter in your brain. I mean, that's just how your brain works. And you actually want that, right? And it also houses and really starts to enhance your emotional regulation. And that has been researched countless times. And there's a source for that, the Davidson-McEwen resource that I used for that. And it's something that you learn when you're studying the brain anyway, because you got to understand like why you have gray matter and how can you increase the gray matter. And I don't want to get too technical in here or you'll be like, oh my God, this is too much talk about the brain. However, it's really good information to know, but not everybody has to know it in that way. So your cognitive restructuring is where you want to go. Now, to reduce your automatic thinking, because your automatic thinking is negative, when you restructure this, it changes those automatic thoughts. So automatic negative thoughts in any kind of brain stuff is called ANTs, A-N-T, automatic negative thinking. So think about how you're like, oh my God, this house is overridden with ants. Okay, whatever, let's say ants. Ants, you don't want them to be there. So you don't want to push them away. Now, this is the other thing that you cannot do. You tried it with your depression, your anxiety, your fears. You just want it to go away. Oh my God, what do I need to do? Just make this stop. Nothing. You got to deal with it. You got to handle it. You got to restructure how you see it. Because if you're structuring it in a place where you think that you can outrun it, your neuro pathways are still going in fight and flight, and they're also going down a negative pathway. So you have to be extremely careful of that because you can't just get rid of something, right? And reducing those thoughts, it's going to improve your well-being in general. I mean, it's just really going to improve it because you're going to see things a little clearer. You're going to be okay if things change. Oh, fuck it. Okay, it changed. So what? I'm a little disappointed. I'll be fine. Don't get married to your ego. Your ego and your negative thinking, they are hand-holding down these pathways. Now, you can simmer your ego and still walk down the positive pathways because all ego is not bad. Confidence is great. Your ego knowing that you are capable is amazing. So yes, you want to walk down that as much as you can. And replacing automatic thoughts with rational ones can significantly reduce depressive symptoms. That is studied by Beck in 1967. So this is all 1967. We are in 2024, and they have been studying long before then. So again, it's never reinventing the wheel. I tell you this every week. You can listen to me. You could listen to thousands of people before me, after me, anything like that. We're all going to tell you just about the same 5 things. There's no magic like, oh my God, that's the solution. It doesn't exist. So there's a lot of us, and we may tell you the same thing in 700 different ways. And maybe you take a few of those and you're like, oh my God, it clicks. And then you go, oh my God, now I see what they were talking about. But at the end of the day, there's no magic solution. There's no one way other than facing it, restructuring it, and taking the accountability for that restructure. There's no other way around it. There's no other way to get through it. Now, here's that emotional regulation that I was talking about. Here is why. So think about when you are emotionally dysregulated, you immediately, good Lord, you immediately go down the negative rabbit hole. And what it does is it leads to better emotional control, reducing anxiety and depression. And that is proven, right? Because if you're anxious about something, you're immediately stressing like, oh my God, this is going to suck. Oh my God, these people aren't going to like me. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Okay, everything is negative. You can have good anxiety. You're like, oh my God, I hit the lottery. Now what? You can have that. But I'm talking about the anxieties that are really unproductive for you. And regulating the emotional triggers can reduce emotional reactivity. And that's just true. That's that responding out of response versus emotions. I don't know if you've ever tuned into any of my TikTok lives that I do on, a couple days a week, but I usually do a Sunday one. And sometimes if my son is home, he will pop in and do one with me. He's 28. And he tells the story several times. It's not a full story, but like it'll come brought up and he'll say, oh my God, my mom was the most impatient, negative, pessimistic person that I was ever around in my life. And he's not lying. So this is the work I've done. So don't tell me you can't do it, because I'm telling you right now, I might have been one of the most catastrophic thinking, negative, complaining, oh my God, it's the end of the world type thinker. Okay. And it's the neuro changes, but I'm 53. I've been working on this since I'm 20, like really working a little bit before, but consistently working, say 26, 7, like it's gray area. Let's say hardcore at 30, hardcore. Even though I was like studying the brain and stuff before, but I was really half-assing it, trying to make it rush and trying to look for the magic solution. So I learned a lot, and I actually did learn some early in my 20s from being a personal trainer, because you do have to learn a little bit about that too, but it's really like high level. But once I didn't like being around myself, like I was like, oh my God, you're so dramatic and you're so negative, and oh my God, everything was a problem, and it was everybody else, and it was everything else, and everybody was responsible for my misery, and everything had to be in control, and everything had to be blah, blah, blah. And you get tired of it. And by the way, nobody is going to change until they get tired of it. So until you're willing, and I said willing, to do the work for the rest of your life, do not jack yourself up and psych yourself up, okay, to think, oh my God, I'm going to get through this. You will get through this, but you're still going to have to challenge yourself every single day. Just know that. Stop chasing this fast fix, because that's a distortion, and we're going to talk about that too. All right. So those are very important things that's going to help you with your regulation, because you start realizing that person's reactions are theirs. I don't care that they're taking it out on me. It has nothing to do with me. Again, though, it's that restructure, and my brain automatically goes there. They could literally be personally trying to, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's about them. Like it literally doesn't, my program isn't, let me go attack you. My program is like, whatever, it's about you. But it's a practice that you have to change. All right. Oh my God, this is so important. This is your self-enhancement, just in general. This is where you start building confidence. When you start regulating your emotions through the neuro pathway changes, right? The neuroplasticity, you become a lot more confident, right? You're not you're not reactive. You're not in reactivity. You are not overreacting in weird situations. You're listening before you communicate back. You're taking a minute. In turn, you're a hell of a lot more confident. If someone is reactive and they lash out at you, it does not demonstrate confidence. I don't care what you're trying to get across. It does not demonstrate any type of confidence whatsoever. It does quite the opposite. So confidence says, okay, you know what? I don't have to be in control of this. I really don't have to control it, and I don't have to know their why. So this will go into even trauma healing, right? This will start healing. I'm not saying it's going to be the magic button or the magic key to healing it, but it does help, because again, you stop living in this past fantasy of like, oh my God, my life would be so much better if I had better parents, if I didn't go through that. Okay. No, you don't know that, because now you're generalizing again. For a fact, this is 100% guarantee, you do not and will not ever know that if you had a better childhood, that your life would be so much better. It would be different. Yes, it would be different. You do not and cannot ever imagine that it was going to be all good, because that's unrealistic. And there's no guarantee to that. So when you start working on that neural pathway, you realize, okay, well, I'm here now. Okay, I am here now. I cannot control the people around me. I have got to be adaptable. I'm telling you, this will help your flexibility. One of your biggest issues is when you're not flexible, right? I'm a human, you're a human. We're going to have to be flexible. If you've ever got ready to the doctor says, got to cancel my appointment. Listen, I book people out for the year. I'm changing you in many times, because I'm booking you out for the year to give you a date. I would rather you have a date and then either change it or we'll just reschedule it, versus need a date. And now what are you going to do? But if you get married to that date or that time, that is all with an ego. And the reality is your frustration with that is all yours. Because if you're not flexible, your brain is staying in that pessimistic way of thinking. So that's why you got to be really careful with that. And what it does too is it challenges your distortions, right? Of that catastrophic thinking, the mental filter of everything negative. Everybody is out to get me. Nobody loves me. I'll never have friends. We've talked a lot about catastrophizing and kind of all of those things. Okay. And it also reduces your social anxiety, because you're going out and you're like, I don't really care what they think, because one of your thoughts are going to be, oh my God, what if they think I'm stupid? Then let them think they're stupid. You're stupid. First of all, you have no fact to that. There's no facts. You have no idea what somebody's thinking. When you start mind reading, well, I know what they're thinking. A lot of times first of all, it's always your own insecurity and projection. But now you start fortune telling and forecasting what somebody is thinking. And it's never, you're not like, oh my God. And I don't mean attachment like, oh my God, they love me, not in an obsession way, but you're never like, oh my God, I know that they know I did a good job. No, rarely are you doing that. You're like, oh my God, what did I screw up? I could have done better. And I did all of these things. Your thinking is going to be problematic for you, but that will change as you start these changing out these distorted thoughts, because you have no idea what somebody's thinking. They could look at you and love your lashes. You just got lashes on. And I mean, you got tan, your lashes, you're looking good. I mean, they are staring at you because they are admiring you. Okay. And then there's you and you're like, what are they staring at? Why? What's your problem? Okay. Insecure much? Because people look at you for different reasons. And maybe, let's say they do look at you. My daughter has piercings. She's 17. She's got a septum ring. She's got snake bites, which are two, piercings like on your bottom, like under your bottom lip. It looks like a snake bite. She's 17. She's had them since she's right under 16, like 15. And so she's gotten those looks. She's gotten those like, oh my God, look at and I have tattoos. The reality is I don't care and she doesn't care. Because if you don't like tattoos and you don't like piercings, then don't get them. But your opinion of mine doesn't matter. But that goes into the restructure of their opinion means nothing to me. See, a person's opinion only matters if you give it value. Now, I mean, of course, you got to have value for some people's opinions, right? I mean, but you got to value them on a level and saying, is this trying to help me or are they trying to hamper me, right? So there's ways of reviewing it. But again, it's all cognitive restructure. What the whole concept is, if I break it down, is challenge it from the door. Anytime you catch yourself going all or nothing, or it could or should, or oh my God, just pause. Take a deep. This is where the 5 journals will come in handy. Go watch that on my YouTube. It's a 5 journal series that I've copywritten. It's great. It gives you the gratitude journal, the positive and negative journal, the data dump journal, and the mood journal, and they are all beneficial. Which goes into the very next thing. Again, proven. Gratitude is such a magic pill. It doesn't fix everything, but it does help change your pathway. Because if you're negative, and do not tell me you do not have time for a gratitude practice. If you say you don't have time or you are tired, then you need to take 3 days off work and just gratitude the whole time. Because everybody has time. I need you to get this. Every human has 24 hours in the day. Yes, I was a single mom. I know that that's tough. Still have the same amount of time. So I got to work around that. We all have the same amount of time. Yes, we have different stressors, we have different obligations, but we still have the same time. I have a client who works really hard, needs their sleep, but gets up at 3:30, 4 o'clock, 3 days a week to go work out because that's the only time that they can work out. Oh, well, it's the only time that they can carve out to work out because they're like running this big thing. But it's important to them, so they make it happen. So your neuro pathway, instead of going negative, like, oh my God, 3:30, who wants to get up that time, goes, okay, well, wait a minute. When can I structure this? Could it be 9 o'clock at night? My husband, Paul, my God, sometimes I'm like, ooh, that's late. Sometimes he'll get on Peloton at 10:30 at night and been on there for an hour. That's right. Because he didn't get a chance to do it in the day, but he knows it's good for him. But his restructure is, I can either complain about it or I can say, what does my body deserve? Restructure. I don't want to do it versus what do I deserve? I don't want to do it. I deserve to be able to come downstairs and have a clean kitchen. I deserve to move my body because my body needs that. The more that you avoid yourself is the more that you are continuing to neglect your inner child. That's right. So you got to rewire it because your automatic negative thoughts, your ants, have been there and they've been weirdly protected, okay, protective of you. But at the same time, that's never going to serve your best and highest good because you're going to stay stuck and you're going to stay in that cycle. Okay. Now, another thing that it does when you start changing over to optimistic thinking is it literally not only reduces your anxiety, but it also reduces how you see life in general. So instead of looking for the negative, you automatically kind of see the positive in it. Glass half full, half empty. So my theory on that, it's not just my theory, but it's the theory that I adopted. It's not mine. I didn't create it, but I did adopt it, is the glass is always full. It's always 100% full. Now, it's either full of water or liquid, or it's got air in it. But it could be half full or a quarter full with water, and the rest of it is air. In turn, that glass is always full. But are you going to see it as half empty? Life is largely how your mindset is. Your mindset changes when you do cognitive restructuring. Your mindset is always in your control, and how you see life is how you're going to live life. How you see life is how you will live life. So if you stay in the rut, you're going to live in the rut. And yes, even in my deepest, darkest, depressive times, when you're depressed, it's even more important to do the gratitude, right? Because you are like, oh my God, everything, and it's chemical. So you want to make sure that you're talking to your doctor, you're getting on your medication, you're doing your therapies, you're doing your coaching. All those things are important. At the end of the day, it's getting through it. I can promise you, I've lived it. I've been through it. My son has lived it, been through it. My daughter is living through it now. And it's all about a mindset. The world doesn't change for you. The world doesn't stop for you. No one's saving you. It is not anybody else's responsibility to change this mindset but you. Humans are largely, we're all flawed and we all have our own free will. So if you start thinking, say it's a relationship, and you start thinking, well, if I do this and this and this, they'll stay with me. First of all, you never want somebody to stay with you out of pity, number one. And number two, they are a human being and they may always make some other decision that you may or may not like. Then you get to have the mindset to say, is this serving my best and highest good? Is this something that I want in my life? And it might be not, but don't sit there and keep trying to stick that square peg into a round hole because you really want the square peg. The cognitive restructuring in accepting that everyone has free will. Now, this is the Buddhist practitioner in me. I practice Buddhism. Is you are not attached to anything. I have a family. I have my cats who I love dearly, and all of those things. I am connected to them, but I am very, very clear that every single one of them, myself included, is temporary. I mean, life is all temporary. So I don't worry about, well, we've been together almost 19 years. Yeah, it would suck if he was like, oh, okay, I'm done. It would be hurtful. But I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I'm never going to get in another relationship. And oh my God, I'm going to pick the bear over the man. And we're not doing that. That's dramatic. That's cognitive distortion. That's living in ego. There's so many things that come into play. So it's a cognitive restructure of, I can't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow to these people or to my friends or whatever. I can appreciate them now. Restructure. Oh my God, what am I going to do without them? Restructure. Well, I have them now. Is this serving me? It also gives you more clarity on what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want. right? These are all important things. And the reason that we struggle with positive, right? We know, like I said, it's the cognitive distortions. It's the low self-esteem. There's no fast fix ever. Stop reading books, stop listening to podcasts, stop watching social media, stop watching YouTube and assuming that you are going to find that magic. I'm in this group. Oh my God, they're going to give me the answers. There is no one answer. And the only answer that there is to be repetitive in thought, challenge your thoughts, show up for yourself, because your cognitive restructure will change that procrastination. Right? I don't have anybody editing my podcasts. I mean, one day I will, I'm assuming, but I'm here now. And I do 2, sometimes 3, depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing the abundance tier, I do 2 sets a week, and I have to create a worksheet. That's not 5 minutes. And I have clients, and I have some kind of a life, and I have to do short form, and I need to balance my life, and I have to move my body. Like, you could look at that and be like, oh my God, that's a lot. And I do my journal practice. I mean, it's how you see it. You might see it as like, oh my God, it's a lot. I know it's a lot, but I restructure it just as so because I love doing what I do. That doesn't mean I get consumed by it. So I structure and plan my podcast. I do my research on my podcast. A lot of it was with the knowledge and remembering some of the researches and, keeping up on that and various things like that. This isn't fast. Okay. If I'm doing a set of 2, not including research, it's 3.5 to 4 hours, not including research. So add another, and again, a lot of it I already know, but I go back through and do notations. And so let's say 5-6 hours to give you just 2 of these, this one and the Patreon, a week, not including the worksheet. Okay, well, I could look at that and be like, oh my God, I don't want to do it. Or do what I do now and say, you know what? I'd like to have a few of these podcasts banked. So like I'm coming up on vacation here in a few weeks, and I'm going to have those done. So when I'm on vacation, I don't have to do them. So your cognitive restructure can't be, I don't want to do this now. Well, front load it. Do the things. I go to the gym on a Monday. If I go to the gym on a Monday, I'm going to do my legs because that's my least favorite thing to do. Front load it with the things. Put in the work now to reap the rewards in the future. And that's going to be a restructure. I don't care that you don't want to do it. What do you deserve? I'm going to keep going into that. What do you deserve? What do you deserve? What do you deserve? Because if you think that you deserve more, well, then you better act like you deserve more. You got to act like you deserve more. And this will, if not, you're going to have burnout. And let me tell you, I'm very cognizant with burnout. I'll take a couple days here and there. I'll try to bank some content, and then I'll sit down, I'll crochet, like I'll sit by the pool. I make sure that I'm going to stay balanced because it is very easy. And I'll feel burnout a couple times a year, sometimes a couple times in a month. And I just readjust and go, okay, what is it? I'm feeling burnout. What is it that I was trying to accomplish? Okay, I was trying to accomplish too much. So now what can I sort of say, oh, okay, let me be more realistic. Cognitive restructure versus, oh my God, I'm in burnout. Oh my God, this sucks. Okay, because if you don't have the skills in the restructuring, of course it's going to be hard. Right? Your positivity bias isn't there. You have a negativity bias. That's all you're going to see. And then, my God, then you're out comparing yourself. Oh my God, this person has more. This person's doing more. I should know better. Then you got to go into defensiveness. Now your ego comes into play. Like all these things come into play. All because you're living in a negativity bias, a negative bias. By the way, I have cognitive bias podcast. If you haven't listened / seen it, feel free to go out there. And if you're on the Patreon, there is a worksheet that goes with that. And it's just so important because this is stuff that you have power over. Perfectionism's fake. It doesn't exist. Motivation is fake. It doesn't exist. You have inspiration. You do not have motivation. You have, what do I deserve? And what can I do to work towards that? But you better know your why. What the hell is your why? Don't tell me to feel better. That's not a why. Why do you do what you do? Why do you want to change? It can't just be to feel better. What is your why? When you don't know your why, you're not working towards anything. Nothing. You're not working towards anything. You're just functioning around, just pitter-pattering around. So this is why you've got to replace the negatives with the visualization of the success. Visualization, meditation, gratitude, all proven effective. Not only to change your gray matter, not only to change that, but now we get a little woo-woo because you guys know I stay very connected to the universe. When the universe sees that you are like connected and aligning more with the positive, it's going to give you more opportunities. There is no scenario where the universe just drops shit in your lap. No, but the universe will provide you opportunities to do the work to get what it is that you want. But you better be willing to do the work and allow yourself to know this is going to take time. This is not overnight. You're not just going to reprogram your brain. It's been this way for however old you are. So you better give it time, and you better wrap your head around it right now that this is going to take like really for the rest of your natural born life. So you're always improving on it. You're always seeing that. So when you allow yourself to know, I am a human being and I am allowed to make mistakes, and I will continue this growth for the rest of my natural born life. You become more compassionate with yourself. You give yourself more gratitude. In turn, you live a more fulfilling life. So that's where I'm going to leave you now. I think you've got a lot of information. If you're on a Patreon, we're going to pop over there. We're going to go through the worksheet, and it's going to give you really good direction. And I'm telling you, you guys deserve it. You have the power. You are in full control of changing it. Your mindset is your responsibility. Changing it is something that you can do. SMART goals, micro goals. All of my podcasts are going to work hand in hand. You don't just pick one and then, woo, that's magic. Hell no. You better read my books, everybody else's books, 15 podcasts. You can listen to them all to extrapolate the same information, but none of them are fast fixes. Stop chasing that. Change that mindset to say, I will always be learning, and I deserve to always be learning, because that's how I can see more opportunities, learn more, and have a more fulfilling life.